I have a lot of really cool friends who do a lot of really cool things. I wanted to make it a goal to sit down with these friends and spend about 15 minutes or so getting to know them better and find out about their past, present, and their future. The result is this show. My name is Grant Baciocco, and this is 15 Minutes With. I'm very happy to be talking to my good friend, super creative person. She sings, she acts, she's hilarious, she's a brilliant improviser, she's a relatively recent puppeteer who's absolutely fantastic, and she's a very good friend, my friend Vanessa Whitney. Hi, Vanessa.
Hello, Grant.
I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for asking me here.
Well, of course. Well, let's start with your... Now, I know your family lives in Colorado. Is that where you started?
Yes.
In Colorado?
Yep.
And when did the creativity start?
I probably popped out of my mom and said, ta-da!
Yeah, the cartwheel.
Mm-hmm, yep. I remember, we always had music in our house. There were four of us, 4 kids, 4 girls. So my mom would, on the weekends, we'd put on some music, John Denver music, which is very conducive to learning melodies and harmonies. And we would play music all day while we cleaned the house, because it was a family affair to live in the house. So everybody cleaned. Everybody had different things that they would do for the day. Yeah, so we would put on John Denver usually initially, but then my mom and dad played anything from, opera music to Nat King Cole to musicals, Jesus Christ Superstar when I was really little. I remember acting that out when I was a kid in the living room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a soundtrack my mom would play too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, whatever, if that was subversive learning going on. No, I don't know. But it was definitely like in my brain, each song, I was that character. Or each voice.
Sure,
even, like being a kid and you're trying to hit, gentlemen, you know why we are here. And you're trying to be the Pharisees and all that.
Yeah. And so what was the first sort of, so obviously a very musical household and inspired creativity, I would assume. When was like the first sort of like, was it a class play or, like the first,
we did.
Like first organized, what I'm saying is creative.
Okay,
creative
then I will say it was part of church.
Okay.
It was part of church. I stopped going to church once I was 12 years old, but before that, our church was very creative and musical, and my dad directed the choir for a little bit. My dad was a music major in college, and my mom sang as well. And then he was just in the choir, just enjoyed it. But we girls were in junior choir and handbell choir, which was pretty cool. And that's one of those things where you go, oh, this is, I'm playing an instrument. Not everybody, can do this and read music. And it's interesting to, think about how that sort of role plays in your life. Because I think that was the last time I played much of an instrument. I try to learn, but I'm not very good at learning instruments. But yeah, church. We did a play. I can't remember what it was about, but church, musical.
Yeah. And then did you stay like in that all through school and like high school and stuff? Did you do theater stuff?
Well, I think when I started to go down the path of theater, the dark path of theater, was 5th grade. I was in a play for getting a good grade.
That was the name of the play?
For doing well.
That was the audition process? You got to be in a...
we had to audition, but if we got, a certain grade and up on the test or whatever, my 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Berry, she had us come out into the library and would read these different parts. And the play was The Lion and the Mouse. And I was the lion.
Wow. Your role is right there in the title of the play.
Yeah. My mom made the little costume, and she did like yarn mane and like a tail and everything. It was so much fun. Although, apologies to Bert Lahr's family, I probably completely stole most of what I did from him. It was me. It was my voice, but all of the growls and snarls and all of that.
Yeah.
So him.
That's funny to think like, I'm going to play a lion. Now what? Instead of looking at lions, I'm going to look at Bert Lahr in Wizard of Oz.
That's right.
That's great.
Yeah.
And did you go to college for theater and stuff?
Yep.
Yeah.
Went to the University of Northern Colorado in Greeley, and great program. I loved it. I was so glad that I went there because, of course, you go, well, I didn't go to Yale, but I went to someplace where undergrads got to perform in the shows, and we had to do a certain number of hours of stage tech as well as acting. So I loved that. I was terrible at building and things like that. Bless the shop. They would let me have a hammer sometimes. And then they realized I was better at paint spattering. But I loved it. I loved being a part of it. And I did costume crew for the operas and things like that. I loved it.
Yeah, and so you were in several plays in college?
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite that you were in? One that sticks out? What's your favorite?
I was Nurse Ratched in Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a favorite.
It was fun, and it was, she was a challenge for me, though, because I'd only ever seen, in my experience, it had been the movie when I was younger, and she was, Louise Fletcher always seemed really intimidating and frightening to me, and I realized playing her, that was kind of the first time I think as an actress I felt like I had a responsibility to a character, because you can't just be this evil, horrible person. So I brought it from, she was a nurse who did what she loved at one point. And, now she had sort of gone down a dark path, but I still had that love underneath it. So it's even scarier when she's, hugging Billy Bibbit and saying, "Oh, Billy, what would your mother say?" And you're like,
yeah.
So great to make her loving.
Yeah.
You
And then, so after college, when did you make the move? Because I met you out here in Los Angeles, so obviously, did you go anywhere else before?
Yeah, I did. I went. I did a tour of a national tour. We did 60 cities in 6 months, all over the United States and up into Canada.
And what was that for?
It was 101 Dalmatians.
Oh, okay.
I was Cruella de Vil.
Wow.
And it was a musical, a little bit of a musical.
Yeah.
I mean, the basic story.
Right.
Sometimes we played little-ish, 500-seat theaters. And other times we played the Rialto Square in Joliet, Illinois, one of my favorite theaters. The Grand in Texas, in Galveston. Big 1,000-seat theaters that are just beautiful.
Yeah.
So that was an incredible experience. But we were also our own crew. It was non-union, so it was
Wow.
So that's what I did first. Then I did children's theater as well in Denver at the Arvada Center, which is a great place for theater in Colorado. Then I moved to Chicago for a little bit, and friends of mine and I wrote plays and performed them in the attic of my friend's apartment.
Was it after Chicago you came to Los Angeles?
Yep, after
Okay.
Chicago.
But because you brought up writing, you write a lot of things.
Yep.
You're working on a book right now. I'm not, no spoilers, but you're working on a book. But you're always working on kind of, musical or whatever.
Yeah.
When did the writing start?
That started in Chicago, actually.
Yeah.
Because I started doing. I had my friends were so creative and would write these amazing scenes and plays, and I knew that I could do it, but I didn't feel confident enough. But what I started doing in 95, like in Denver, and then in 95 and 96 when I lived in Chicago, I did stand-up.
Oh, that's right. That's
and
right.
That's
right.
when I started. That's when I started writing.
Yeah.
That's when I realized, I was like, oh, I can do this. And I would see where I would have a moment where I would go, no, that thought isn't very funny, but if I put this word last, that makes it funny. So because I believe that you have to sort of have a sense of humor, a sense of timing, to do it. But that was the first time that I really thought, that I started crafting jokes in my head. And I'm not a joke teller as a comedian, but I knew what would be funnier.
Yeah.
It gave me an opportunity. I have friends who are still friends of mine to this day here in LA. My friend is producing a show, Jeff Tully and Bren Hill. He started a bringer room, or like an open mic night kind of. And it was at Lakeview Links on Lakeview in Chicago, right by the L. And people will know where I mean on Belmont and Lakeview. And I would go there without fail every week. And Hitchcock's as well, another place where I would go to open mic night. And I would wait till, like 1 a.m. to get up if I wanted to, or sometimes they would be very fair and do drawings and stuff like that. They'd draw out of a hat. But it was fun, and that's where I developed a lot of material. Then when I went to Denver in between moving from there to out here, I really worked on my craft, and I got to open for really amazing people, Kathleen Madigan and Jake Johansson and Eddie Brill. Incredible comedians. Kevin Kataoka from up north, brilliantly funny. Robert Mack. Funny people. Emily Grove. She was a comedian a while back. I don't know if she's still doing it, but just great people.
Yeah. And then when I met you through Improv. We were both taking a class with Patrick Bristow, the amazing Patrick Bristow.
Yes.
And had you done improv before that? Like, were you involved?
I had a man named Kevin Hart, not little teeny tiny comedian Kevin Hart, brilliant funny man too, but different brilliant funny Kevin Hart in Denver. He cast me in a show called Mike's Interactive TV Party, and this was when it was first like interactive, where people could choose like an ending to something. Remember when that was like brand new?
Yeah.
Like Melt Wizard, that kind of a thing where it's interactive. You get to choose what you do. And people, it was an improv-ish show. And people would choose, what happened, the circumstances. And so that was the first kind of introduction I had to improv. But, that was just truly flying by the seat of my pants. I had no idea what I was doing. So they were so sweet. I mean, I had fun and the show went well, but I had no idea what I was doing. So when I moved out here, Patrick had directed me in a showcase and said to me, I don't know if you've ever done improv, but I have a feeling you'd be really good at it.
And you are.
Thank you.
I agree.
And, very sweet. And so that's when I first started working with him, which was like, 2000?
Oh, 5, 6? I don't know.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But
it was back around then.
And that's where I first, met you and brilliant,
our
funny
little
people that
ragtag
we know.
group of improvisers.
That's right.
And then through that, I'm assuming through that, but through your relationship with Patrick and stuff, you got to go to Henson and do the puppetry training. Now, I'm sure you were a Henson fan before that, but was it a little bit like me, where it was like I was a fan of puppets and stuff, but I never thought like, oh my gosh, I'd be doing this, and I love it.
Exactly.
But I wasn't like a little kid. As a kid, I was a fan of the Muppets, but I never thought I'm going to be that.
Right.
And then now to all of a sudden be that.
Yeah. I had, of course, like you said, I was a huge fan. I remember going to you remember when they used to have Saturday morning movies for kids, like in local movie theaters?
Yeah.
So my sister Rochelle and I, my mom would get us the whole package for the summer. And my sister and I would go every Saturday downtown. We'd ride our bikes, and we'd go to the movies, or Mom would drop us off. And they showed the Muppet movie, and that I remember to this day that moment of, when Kermit looks into the camera and sings at you, "Life's like a movie, write your own ending," and it's that moment where you go, as a kid, you not thinking, I'm going to remember this moment forever. But when you get to be an adult and you go, oh, wow, I really remember it.
Yeah.
And Patrick, again, that was one of those things Patrick said, how much puppeteering have you had? And I'd known him for several years, doing improv with him and you guys for several years. And I said, from... like I knew little Punch and Judy, kind of like the stuffed head on the 3 middle fingers, and then you use your pinky and thumb as the little
hands,
little myth hands.
Yeah.
I had done one show like that with Club Disney in West Covina,
and so we were for Disney too. I'm forgetting about all this stuff.
Yeah. So we had to do the little voices. So I had Piglet, and I had a Winnie the Pooh little puppet, and we had an old school theater like puppet theater where we had to open the curtains, we would pop them up and like talk to each other like that and do the voices, whatever voice we thought went with, you know, Piglet and Pooh and Tigger. But they always hoped, they were always like, if you can do kind of a Winnie the Pooh, that'd be great, you know. So they wanted us to try the hello Pooh, hello, you know, Piglet.
Yeah, trying to do Paul Winchell
totally.
as Piglet and
That's right.
Well, let me ask you about your creative process, because you are a very creative person. You're always kind of writing on something or
Lots
doing
of
something.
things,
Yeah. So what is like? Do you have a set thing every day? Like, oh, I'm gonna write something every day, or is it just when inspiration hits you? Or
often it's when inspiration hits me. Sometimes it's when I go, oh my God, I haven't worked on this for so long. I have to do it now. Often it is inspiration. It's especially if I do music, if I do songs.
Yeah.
Very often I'll get a phrase stuck in my head, or like either a hook or a chorus or something that will start the song, and it's just rhythmically it speaks to me. And those are moments when I have to I'll like grab a little digital handheld recorder, or I sit down and I write it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because another question I wanted to ask when I was thinking of questions to ask you, I was going to ask you this question. I'm just going to leave it open-ended.
Okay.
Vanessa Whitney, to you, how important is music?
It's as important as love, as important as food and water and shelter. Yeah. To me.
Yeah.
I couldn't live without it, I think.
Yeah, because you always, there's some people who I just know, like, it's just like, I know music is so important to them. And just from little things of, like, usually when you come to rehearsal, you're listening to some music, but that's just like me in the car, I'm always listening to, as soon as I get in, like the first thing before checking mirrors or whatever, it's put on the music.
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, I can tell. And most of the stuff you do is very, if it's not all out musical, I would say it's lyrical.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I think I'm I hope I'm poetic when I write, and lyrical, like you said. I hope that, because I think the words are super important too. That's something that I remember talking with a friend of mine in college about, that I would play him a song, and I would say, listen to this song, and he would go, oh yeah, I've heard this, and I'd go, no, sit here for a minute, listen to the song, so like he would know, the chorus and the this part of it, but did you listen to the other stuff? And that was always the thing. And I think that also, again, it comes from, both my parents were teachers, so everywhere we went as kids, we were the family that sang in the car. We would have the radio on if there was music available, but if not, we would turn it off and talk, or we would turn it off and sing together. We could do the Hallelujah chorus, like every part.
Yeah.
In my family. And so I think that's where it comes
from,
from,
Von
too.
Trapp family.
Kind of, a little. But
the Von Whitneys.
Yeah, and there's something too that I will say that I've heard other people talk about this, other groups, and like I've heard the Everly Brothers say it, I've heard the Carpenters talk about it, I've heard people now, like there are some groups out there where it's sisters or brothers, and there's something about blending with your family, because you all have a similar tone in your voice, and singing with my sisters is heaven. So good. Love it. But it's always important. Always.
Well, if people who are listening wanted to find out more, is there like a place they can follow you online or check you out? Like, do you have?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter.
Yeah.
VDub at VDub4. VDUB and the number 4. I don't tweet as often as I have Facebook. But yeah, that's where you can find me, and if you come and see Puppet Up, hopefully, I'll be in some shows coming up, or,
Excellent. Well, Vanessa, thank you so much for talking to me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
15 Minutes with on the GrantCast is a production of Saturday Morning Media and is made possible in part by the Saturday Morning Media Patreon patrons who've gone to www.patreon.com/Saturday Morning Media and set up a monthly donation for as little as $1 a month. Huge thanks to Shay Stewart, Merle Lafferty, Jeff Peterson, Dale Gadania, Steven Staver, Jackie Klimo, Melissa Crawford, Chuck, Matthew Wayne Selznick, Dave Slusher of the Evil Genius Chronicles, Mike Coughlin, Dorothy Baciocco, John D., Kathy Crawford, Brian Greer, Carrie Whitney, Chuck Tomasi, Chris Foster, Stephen Ing, Clinton of ComedyForecast.com, and Vicky DeVries. If you'd like to support the show and the other fun content from Saturday Morning Media, become a patron. Head on over to www.patreon.com/Saturday Morning Media. That's www.patreon.com/Saturday Morning Media, all one word. Or you can tell a friend about the show or leave us a review on iTunes. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'll be back soon with another episode of the GrantCast. The GrantCast is copyright 2016 Saturday Morning Media, Grant Baciocco, executive producer. All rights reserved. www.SaturdayMorningMedia.com.